Hi, I'm Cindy Nolte, founder of Fresh Look on Life, with locations in Augusta, New Jersey, and Lakeville, PA. For nearly 10 years, I've served the tri-state area in hypnosis, past life regression, life coaching, Reiki, integrated energy therapy, Jin Shin Jitsu, animal Reiki, offering classes, workshops, certifications, lectures, and more. For more information, contact Fresh Look on Life and get a fresh look on your life. www.freshlookonlife.com or call us at 973-383-6847.
Tri-State Computer Center. We're not just your average computer store anymore. Personal computing, business computing, we handle it all, from networking, repairs, sales, web design, search engine optimization, domain name sales, and much, much more. We buy and sell esteem. You never know the gems you could find. Turn your past treasures in for some quick cash. Broken jewelry, collectibles, gold, silver, bring it in. We'll buy anything of value. 103 Pennsylvania Avenue, Matamoras, Pennsylvania 18336, or visit us on the web at www.tristatecomputers.com, or call us at 570-491-2959. That's 570-491-2959. Tri-State Computer Center.
Hi, I'm Cindy Nolte. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Fresh Look on Life TV. I'm excited to share with you my interview with Dr. Georgina Cannon from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Georgina Cannon, thank you so much for joining me from Toronto, Ontario, Canada this morning. I'm so happy to sit down with you again.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So I don't even know where to begin with all of the amazing. You're an author.
Yes.
And I enjoy your books. Great read. But you're also a trainer. You're a hypnotist. Doctorate in metaphysical
counseling.
So we could probably list your titles for the remainder of the program, but let's find out.
It's not important. It's the work that's important. It really is. It's not me that's important. It's the work. Really, I believe that.
Your most recent book is The Third Circle Protocol.
Yes.
And we did talk about that a little bit in a previous episode, but I think that relationships is a real important topic.
Totally. I mean, it's who we are. We when we're by ourselves, unless you happen to be a Buddhist monk and live alone in a cave somewhere, every person we connect with in a relationship of some sort. Even if it's the person at the supermarket, even if it's somebody that we sit next to on a bus, whether we keep ourselves tight or whether we spread out, do the man spread as they call it, we're relating. We're giving a statement. We're interacting with others. So we're like a tapestry. You know, everybody that comes into our life and everybody that connects with us highlights or diminishes or engages us in a way. And most of the time we don't really consider it. We don't think about it. We don't understand the impact it has on us. And it's important to know that we can manage our interaction with others rather than just react. So we can act, respond, instead of reacting. Because we know, certainly in families, which relationships in families can be very messy, just to put it nicely, sometimes we have to tighten up and grit our teeth when we go to family gatherings. Now there's a way through this protocol that you don't have to do that anymore. You just learn to engage and accept and allow without anybody crossing your boundaries, no question about that. But this third circle is really the unspoken contract that we have with everybody that we haven't beforehand recognized or acknowledged. And with this protocol, we can now acknowledge it, use it, make it work for us, and make our lives return full. That's a long answer to your question.
Yeah, but it had a lot of questions within that answer. So if you don't mind, some follow-up questions.
Go ahead.
You said that you can engage with those tough relationships, the tough family dynamics, without maybe feeling the angst and just allowing and not allowing others to cross your boundaries. Now that can be really difficult for some people, and really difficult in a dynamic where I've heard people say, and it's a common quote, hurting people hurt. So when when you have that relationship where maybe you have boundaries firmly in place, but they don't respect boundaries.
Right. I think one of the ways of getting around that is to realize that we want people to accept us the way we are. We do. You know, I am who I am sort of thing. But we don't accept people the way they are. And really, if you accept people the way they are, if you know this person pushes your boundaries, if you know that this person is inclined to trample all over you, then accept the person, not the behavior, but accept the person that that's who they are. And you don't go into it in battle. You go into it with recognition, and you live within your value system, which might be kindness, it might be respect, whatever your value system is. You use your value system to deal with that person, allowing them to be who they are. And one of the great sayings or phrases I teach my clients when they have relatives or parents that tell them they're always wrong, or, whack the finger or whatever. You should know better. And one of the phrases is, I can understand where you're coming from. I totally get it. For you, it makes perfect sense. For me, not so much. But for you, I can see that it works for you. And they go, yes, but. You go, absolutely, I get it. Where you are makes perfect sense. For me, not so much. But for you, it makes sense. And that solves a lot of the finger wagging, the belligerence in interactions.
So it's really about being present and allowing people to just be who they are, and to kind of relate with whatever tools they have, no matter how primitive it can be. Right. For some people, they have power tools. For some people, they have a rock and a stick, and that's their tool.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't mean you have to accept it. Doesn't mean you have to have your boundaries crossed. But if in the third circle, that relationship circle is made up of your values, how you live your life, and your priorities, what you absolutely need in every relationship. And we have to know that. What are the 4 or 5 things you absolutely need, unequivocal? And then what do you want? What's nice to have? And what are you prepared to give? So if you're prepared to give to Uncle Charlie, who's a pain in the butt, respect for who he is, allowing him to be who he is, if you are prepared to live your values of kindness or laughter or whatever your value system is, then it changes the dynamic. And suddenly the other person changes too. Is it always easy? No. But is it possible? Absolutely.
And it's about you being present too in that relationship instead of getting pulled into that dynamic, right?
Exactly. You take your power back.
You talked a little bit about needs, and often people don't know what their needs are. They don't even stop to think.
Most people don't stop to think. That's why they go into relationships that last, love relationships or partner relationships that last maybe 4 or 6 months, one after another, and they come in to the clinic and they say, how come I always choose losers? It must be a past life. And I say, it may well be a past life. We'll look at that, but let's look at this life first, and then we can do a past life. Because no question we bring karma in, but again, how we handle that karma is according to our value system. So when they say, how come I always choose losers? I ask them how they choose a partner, how they choose. And most of the time they don't choose, they let it happen. Maybe they go on a dating site, but they look at someone and say, well, they look cute, or I like to play Frisbee too. But they don't go into the value system. They don't go into the priorities, how that person sees their life. So no wonder it doesn't last. There's no connection. There's no sense of recognition of who that person really is. So of course it's not going to work.
So it's really about also having intention for what you're looking for. Like you would for the perfect job. Some people spend more time choosing their job than they do a partner for the rest of their life.
Yeah. I say in the book, more people choose a flavor of ice cream. Spend more time choosing a flavor of ice cream than they do a partner. Yeah. They go to a party and they see a cute guy or a cute woman over there, and suddenly they found their soulmate. And it's not so. It may be, but not necessarily.
Do people often just allow the relationship to be picked rather than choosing what it is that they need?
Absolutely. And certainly for love relationships. When it comes to family relationships, you're sort of stuck there. But the important thing is to understand, to treat the people the way they are, not the way they were. So in the book, I talk about taking a snapshot, for instance. And this is what often happens with parents and children. They both treat each other as though they were 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 years old instead of the adult they are today. So you take a snapshot of someone, and I discussed this with my sister, actually. We took a snapshot of each other when we were in our early teens, and we wondered why we reacted boom, boom, boom like that to some things that we said. And it's because we didn't see each other as adults, and we discussed it, and it made a huge difference. When you go to family gatherings, look what happens. The boys go back to being 8 and 10 years old, these men that now have families of their own. One of the sisters becomes Madame Martyr, or a victim, and does everything. But the boys start punching each other on the shoulder, and Dad says, or Mother says, "Guys, stop that," just like they did
when they were 8. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we do go back in family gatherings, unless you're aware of what happens. We do go back to the snapshot. So you have to be very aware of where you are and who you are. So all relationships start with you. Well, this is not a surprise, of course.
Right.
But you have to have a good relationship with yourself. You have to be comfortable in your skin and live your values, live your priorities, and understand that, we all have good and bad, and we're all smart, we're all stupid, we're all kind and unkind, we're all everything. But the piece we choose to use every day makes us who we are. I'm rambling on. I'm sorry. It's going on and on. I get so excited with this whole concept.
No, you know what? You're fascinating. The topic is fascinating. I could talk to you for hours. But I want to ask you another follow-up question. So you're talking about relationships and the third circle protocol. This was something that you designed, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, this is...
Yes. Yeah, it was fun. Can I tell you how it started?
Yeah, please.
I had this client who, this is now about 8 or 9 years ago now, he just inherited, about a year later, earlier, had inherited his family business. And he came in to see me because he found he developed an anger issue, and he wanted to get rid of his anger. He thought it was stress. But when we did a thorough intake and we really talked about what was going on, it seemed that the bookkeeper at that company had come with the inheritance, and she'd been there since the beginning of time, when his parents first started the company. So she saw him as a 4-year-old. So what would happen is in meetings, he would talk to the staff. I think he had like 120, 130 people working there. And she'd pat him on the arm and say, dear, it's fine the way it is. And he'd erupt, right? He'd be really angry. Then immediately afterward, he'd feel embarrassed. He would feel apologetic. And he'd apologize to everybody in the room plus her. And following day, she brought in cookies to say she was sorry. And she gave him cookies. And he sat in my office and he slammed his fist on the desk and he said, "I don't want her damn cookies. I don't want her to treat me like I'm a child." I said, "Well, you are behaving right now like you're having a temper tantrum, a 4-year-old. And he suddenly went, "Oh, I guess that's where the anger comes from." And I said, "Well, why don't we work on that?" And at that moment, I realized that they were both working from a snapshot. They both hadn't moved forward. So when I started talking to him about what sort of relationship do you need with her, what will be more effective, that's when the protocol started. We started talking about needs and values and priorities and what he was prepared to give, because she deserved respect. She'd been there a long time. Their customers loved her. She had a history of the company. So she deserved a certain amount of respect. She deserved to be treated differently than he was treating her now. And so that's how it began. And I saw that what was missing was the spoken, the contract between two people, whether it be employee and employer. By the way, I work with corporations as well around this. Or whether it be with teens and parents, because there's a lot of unspoken expectations. And when those expectations are let down and you feel violated in some way, then that's when the eruption happens, or the disappointment, or the behavior of abandonment, or whatever. That's when it clicks in.
Do you find, absolutely, do you find that people who have issues, like for him, he had an issue with her giving him what he needed from the relationship, do you find that they have a repeated pattern with other relationships in their life as well?
Oh, totally. We take ourselves everywhere we go, right? So the fact he was operating from a snapshot, when we looked at his family relationships, they were also operating from a snapshot. So every Friday night he went out to his family for dinner, and his father demanded that he give him the week's results. And of course he did. Right? Because he always did what his dad said. So interesting how we changed that. So I asked him, after a couple sessions, we got into the bigger picture, and he he came up with the idea, which I thought was lovely, that once a quarter his father would come into the company, they would have a meeting, a so-called board meeting, and senior members of the staff would come in and they would discuss figures, they would discuss new implementation of protocols, everything. So it became formal.
A grown-up meeting.
A grown-up meeting. Yeah, yeah. He was so excited when he thought of that.
Yeah.
Because he was coming from the grown-up part of himself.
Right, right. So it was the ability for him to perhaps see himself as an adult when he was in those relationships or in that interaction.
Exactly. And it was operating from a sense of value, which one of his top values, if I remember rightly, and it might be in the book, was about respect.
Right.
For others, it's different. He also had a value of the need to be heard. So that was a big one. So he had weekly meetings with his bookkeeper. He had quarterly meetings with his dad. I mean, he started to behave, as you said, like an adult. Yeah.
Now, for somebody who may be listening to this interview and saying, wow, I have that dynamic and I would love to get myself out of it. How does the Third Circle Protocol, your book, kind of take someone through maybe those tough relationships?
Okay. Well, I wrote it so I'm almost like hand-holding you through it. It's second best or third best to coming into the clinic or having a Skype session, which I do with people around the world. The first thing to do is to understand what your value system is. What are your values about yourself, about your life? Write them down. And then ask yourself, do you live those values? So, for instance, if respect is one of your values, do you respect yourself? Do you really respect yourself? And they'll say, well, not really, because I should be going to the gym, or I smoke too much, or I drink too much, or not really. So, okay, well, let's work on that, because until you respect yourself, unless you live your values, because your values are who you are. They're your character. And unless you live them, you don't know where you stand, and nor does anybody else. No wonder they cross your boundaries.
So it's the message that they're sending out there based on their actions.
Yeah, it's I don't know who I am, so come on in. And But if you work your values and really live them and embrace them as who you are, and then look at your priorities and what you absolutely need from every relationship. And we look at that. Now, some people need to be heard. Some people need respect. Some people need love. Some people need fun, life, laughter. Some people need music. They like people who love the arts. They want that type of relationship. So what do you need? What do you want? What's nice to have? And then what are you prepared to give? And I literally handhold you through that system. And then you have a contract for yourself where you might be going and what you look like, what your character is. And it's so empowering, Cynthia, I can't tell you. People shift and change dramatically once they get who they are and accept who they are with joy and pleasure, even the dark side.
As clients applied the Third Circle Protocol to their lives, I'm certain that you probably had some that came that may have wanted a loving relationship with a significant other that was more rewarding. But did they find that spilled over into other areas of their lives as they improved upon this?
Absolutely. I have a wonderful story, actually. This is so perfect. Thank you for asking that question. I was working with a guy who, on some other stuff around, because I do a lot of business coaching as well. And he said to me, my wife was always complaining, I'm not romantic enough. I just don't understand why. I buy her flowers and I do what I can. So I said, well, why don't you bring her in and the two of you come in and we'll find out what's really going on. So she came in and she was a little wary and I chatted, make her feel a little more comfortable. And I said, your husband tells me that you don't think he's romantic enough. And she said, no, he's not. He has no idea about being romantic. And he said to her, we've been married 12 years, 12 or 13, whatever he said. Every Friday I buy you flowers. That's romantic. And she said, I hate those damn flowers. I don't like flowers. And you buy me those daisy things. I don't like flowers. They die within 2 days. They stink up the house. I don't like flowers. And he looked at her like he was shocked. And I said to her, why didn't you ever tell him? And she said, well, you know, he thought he was doing a nice thing. I said, yes, but it's building up resentment in you. And you didn't say anything. And he thought he was doing the right thing. We do that all the time. If you don't live your values, you don't speak your truth. Now, this doesn't mean you're rude or unkind. If she'd have said in year one, like the third month of their marriage or something, no, sweetheart, let's find another way of celebrating each other rather than flowers. He wouldn't have taken it as an insult, but he would have known what he was doing. We just don't do that. We don't do that with each other. We don't.
Being okay and speak your truth isn't to say that you're lying. It's to be able to verbalize your needs, communicate with somebody.
That's right. Another tool I have in the book that's like that is that I ask couples to write down, each of them separately, 5 things that make you feel loved. And they don't need to be huge. They can be small, like, you know, when you pass me by and you rub me on the shoulder, I feel great. Or when we're at a party and you wave at me across the room, I feel warm, I feel loved, I feel that I'm recognized. Little things. So they write them down, they exchange that list, usually in my office. They don't say, I already do this, or that's ridiculous, nothing, no comment. They just take it in and aware what it takes to make their partner feel loved. And I don't let them get away with things like more sex. I don't know what that means, right? I don't know what more sex means. It means one thing to you, but your partner doesn't know what that means. So you've got to be more specific, right? So, but usually it's little things. Quite often, and I would say 80% of the time, sex doesn't even come to that list. It's really interesting. It comes into things like, when I come home, you stop what you're doing and you look up and you give me a kiss. Things like that. Because most people don't do those things. The partner comes home after work and you go, hi, yelling from the kitchen or wherever you are. Right?
The
little things.
The more intimacy would probably be a nice benefit after you get through those important
things that make me feel loved.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all in the book. I'm going to be teaching this probably next year, the protocol to counselors and therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists, because some have already contacted me saying, can I use the pages from the book? I said, absolutely, please go ahead. But they want to learn protocol, so I'm going to be teaching that too. So that's cool. The more people that use it, the better.
So you'll be teaching it in Toronto, or where will they?
Wherever, yeah, in Toronto or anywhere else I'm invited.
Okay.
Have workshop will travel.
Okay, excellent. Your workshops are well worth the travel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You came to one, right?
I came to a couple. Yeah.
Couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So I'm certain that one level of your education kind of builds on others, and your books complement each other. This is not standalone.
Right.
So I wanted to talk about another book, Return Again.
Yes. This is the other part of my clinic work, I guess you'd call it. This is about past lives and life between lives sessions. And what past life training does, or what past life sessions do, is help the client understand patterns that you brought into this life. So if you had a pattern of being a victim, you know, in a past life, maybe you were a slave, or you were a very wealthy woman who was restricted about what she could do, and she couldn't leave a drawing room. What she could do to express herself was needlepoint, you know.
Yeah.
That's a form of victimhood. And if you come into this life and you're born into a family that's abusive, and you find relationships that are abusive, then we need to look at that. So we need to look and say, are you going to continue being a victim, or are you going to become a hero of your life? Because the reason that you come back into this life as a victim is so that you learn to move out of that victimhood and take on the role of a hero. So you learn to step into your power, back to the power thing again. And so the patterning is important. They don't necessarily have to be negative patterns. I mean, one of the things I found out in my patterning is that I was a teacher for many of my lifetimes in different ways. But, you know, whether it be what we now call a witch or whatever, teaching others how to use herbs and tinctures. And it's good to know the patterns. Now, the interlife is a totally separate thing, and it's magical. It is awe-inspiring. People weep sometimes when they're there. So you leave the body. The process is that you leave you go into a past life, and then you leave the body, and you become the energy that you are, the spirit. And many people go through what they call a gateway or a pathway. So it can be literally a gate of light, or it can be a group of clouds that part and let you through. In any form it takes is magical. People feel they're going home. They tell me, I feel like I'm going home. And there are people, beings, energies waiting there to greet you. And there could be 1 or 2 or 20. And sometimes they take on the image of someone that's recognizable, like a beloved grandparent, or Buddha, or Jesus. Or sometimes they're just light, and they come forward, and the person feels enveloped by unconditional love and acceptance. It's the most extraordinary feeling. And that's where sometimes they meet their guide, if they've not met them before, and they get the name of their guide, which is interesting. Yeah. They also get their soul name, their own soul name.
So are you saying their name, in terms of their soul name, is different than their birth name?
Yes. Yes.
Will they recognize it when they hear it?
Yes. Well, everything is recognized. It's like, it's like going back to a place you haven't been to for a while, but you sort of know your way around. Yeah. And then they may go to see their soul circle, because we travel in pods as souls. This is why some people in this life are people that we've shared with other lives. Not everybody, but maybe 1 or 2. And they meet with their soul circle. Then they may go to the library.
I'm going to stop you before you go into describing the library, because although I understand what the soul circle is, there may be some viewers who don't understand what that is.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much for that. Yes, what it is the souls that are at the same level of involvement as you are, but are supportive of each other. So when we go into the soul circle, one of the things we say is, what is your role in that soul circle? And it might be to bring balance, or someone else might be to bring humor, or it might be to bring kindness, or whatever. Because everyone in that circle has a role to play, but they evolve differently. So some may move on to another level that might be higher and closer to God or to the light. Others may move sideways because they need to learn something else, a different type of soul wisdom. And again, people recognize people in that soul circle. They might say, oh my gosh, my mother's there. Or they might say, my grandparent is there. Or my best friend is there.
Do you find that, so this soul circle, people travel from lifetime to lifetime with them too?
Yes, but not the whole team. It might be 2 or 3, or it might be just 1.
Right.
Whatever the need is for this lifetime.
Right.
And there may be some members of the soul circle that haven't appeared yet in your life. They may come in another 10 or 15 years.
Or in previous ones.
Or definitely previous ones. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, but I just wanted to clarify that. So you were talking about the library.
Yes, so you can go. So there are many stations along the way, and not everybody goes to every station. Many people do, but many people only go to 1 or 2. So after the soul circle, which they may or may not go to, they may or may not go to the library, which is like some people call the Akashic Records, some people call it the Book of Wisdom, the Book of Knowledge, where you can look and see where you are in your current life according to what the plan is, the needs are, what you've done in previous lives, but very cursory, very briefly. And from there, you can go to the laboratory where you learn to manage your energy differently, which is fascinating. It's all fascinating. Then you go to the where do you go? You go to the council, the wise elders. Many people go straight there, and these are avatars, or those closest to God. They're very wise. They've known you for eons. They welcome you again with unconditional love, and you can ask any question that, in fact, I encourage people to bring questions with them. Ask any question you wish of the wise elders. Again, they may take on a form of some sort or not. They may just be lights that are there hovering around you. And they will tell you, they'll answer any question in a way that's much bigger than your question. I mean, can't ask them questions about the lottery or anything like that, but you can ask them questions that are important about maybe family or your life.
Or even patterns, right? Even the patterns to understand them.
How am I doing? What do I need to focus on next? Or the big one is, what is the purpose of my life? What am I here to do? What is my sole purpose?
Yeah.
And you'll get an answer.
As they're going through all of these different stages or different visitations or whatever, why would somebody only need to go to maybe one or two or only one, as opposed to somebody going to all of them? Is there...
It's very much like the past lives. We may go in wanting something, but the soul knows best. The soul takes us where we need to go.
Right. Because the soul is always more wiser than we are.
Takes us where we need to go.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I wanted to go to the laboratory. I wanted to learn how to,
Yeah.
No. You're here. Then after the council, we go to the place of where we choose our body for this life and why we chose it. And it's fascinating. Some people go into that space and see it like computer screens, and different images come up of different bodies, male, female, black, white, yellow, pink, green, whatever. And others see them hanging like posters. Other people just get like misty figures that they can step into. And you can try some on, see how it fits with the energy and the brain wiring, right, for that particular lifetime. And why would I choose to come in, as someone said to me, as a gay black male in Kenya? Why would I choose to do that? And they got the answer.
Fascinating.
Resilience, to learn your own power, to learn the importance of being who you are. They got the answer. But when I asked why I chose this body, why this body, and I was told because it's efficient. It'll enable you to do the job you're supposed to do.
It works.
And I was very disappointed. I wanted something, much more glamorous.
Yeah.
But again, and then I said, if I remember rightly, I said, why female? And they said, because you're more empathetic. You already work strongly from the head. If you were male, you would have no heart. So you have to, as I coming in as an Aries, fortunately I came in on the cusp on Pisces Aries, which is, thank goodness, it softens a bit. And so I got the answer there. But it's amazing. Again, I was speaking to my sister, and she said, why couldn't we come in with long legs and long blonde hair and glamour and, God, because we had a job to do. A colleague of mine who was a midwife and now does hypnosis for birthing and fertility, she asked why she came in as a woman, with a strong woman. She said, because you have to give birth, so you understand. Oh, and she came in and she was born deaf as well, hard of hearing. Because you have to learn to communicate, you have to learn about birthing, you have to learn what it is to have a child, and you have to learn to communicate with women. So she was told. And it never have occurred to her, and it certainly wouldn't have occurred to me that was the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does knock you sideways. This wisdom is profound.
And
most people don't want to come back.
Well, I mean, it feels feels much better than some areas of our life do, right?
That's right.
Especially if we're working on. When we're working on, we're in that state of maybe we're disharmony rather than feeling ease and being present.
Right. And being present and being surrounded by unconditional love and acceptance. Why would anybody want to come back? So I have to remind them that they're sort of resisting me to bring them back. Because an interlife session can take up to 3 hours. I have to remind them this is transitory. You're only here in this lifetime for a short time to learn your lesson, to learn what it is you need to do to grow and evolve. So come on back, and then we can continue the journey.
Now, when somebody has a journey like that, if they are in that feeling of disharmony in the real life and they may be hesitant to come back, do they find that when they apply that information that they received during a session, that they are able to have more peace throughout their life?
Yes and no. By that I mean they come back and usually the response is, wow, whoa, now what do I do? And then the answer is, let's look and see what it is you need to do to feel that in your life. And then we do some work about this lifetime. Because what we don't want is people to go through this experience and become like a born again. People who give up smoking, for instance, become a...
I hate smokers, yeah.
That's right. We don't want them to become arrogant. We don't want to walk around and say, look, I know things you don't know. Just really, it's all about letting go. We don't want any of that. So it has to be taken in and lived in as part of who you are and the gentle change that happens, that comes from the inside. And sometimes we have to work with that. And part of that is building, again, your power, your comfort in your skin, living your values. It all comes together. It's all like this. You can't have one without the other. If you're all spiritual, you're not grounded. If you're too grounded, you're not connected through the heart. Got to be, works like this. Yeah.
Don't you find that when there's real true integration of all these things, the body, the mind, the spirit, that knowledge that you receive, whether it's through that type of session or working with the third circle protocol or really any other modality, that as it kind of just settles, you care less and less about other people and their stuff and their garbage.
And their stories. Yeah, you don't get caught up in other stories or drama.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Yeah. It's less important because, it's less about you and more about them and where they are. And we're all just kind of on our own journey.
And it doesn't add anything. It doesn't benefit anything.
Yeah.
Right? And the other, when I talk to clients about addictions, whether it be food or, soft drinks or soda or cigarettes or whatever, I say to them, the other addiction is addiction to drama. Some people are addicted to drama. If there isn't any, they'll make some. So let's be sure that you don't go there. They don't realize they can be addicted to drama too. It's a rush of adrenaline, and that can be addictive.
And I find that it's a learned process too. Usually someone in their life taught them that at a rather young age, and until they're ready, to kind of make a change, they're gonna keep that addiction because it kind of works. It
works, yeah. But don't you find it in companies too? People who gossip. They like the drama of that, being the one in charge of the knowledge, and they pass it on. We have someone in our building here who's a real gossip monger, and she doesn't understand that people avoid her. Because why would I talk to her if she's going to twist it and pass what I say on to somebody else?
Right.
And it's a drama thing. They get caught up in it.
Yeah.
Like their own soap opera. Yeah.
After a while, you learn dynamics of relationships. And when you can be present in them, is there a time to also decide whether or not those relationships serve you and serve your soul?
Yes. I do a fair amount of couples counseling, and this has helped tremendously with couples counseling. But sometimes when they go through this process, they both become whole in themselves, and they realize that this is just not going to work. It just isn't. And so what happens is they separate with respect. They separate with honor, and there's no none of that, because they understand that they're both whole, and they separate gently and honestly, understanding that they probably should not have come together. If kids are involved, then they're treated with respect. They don't disrespect the partner in front of the child or to the child, because they know that's disrespecting the child, because the child is half of the parent, right? And it's just handled very differently. And they go off separate ways as two whole human beings, knowing that their next relationship will be better because they go into it differently.
Yeah. Do you often hear in those relationships where that's the case that there was a red flag that they ignored?
Oh, totally. Well, people want relationships to work. They don't want to say I failed. Sometimes they put more energy into keeping something going that should never have been in the first place, whether it be a job or a relationship or a friendship.
Yeah, that's the same. Yeah,
same thing. So if you feel comfortable in yourself and you know your character and who you are and what your values are, you take a hard look at it and you say that person's fine, that company is fine. It's not about them. It's about me not wanting to be part of it.
Right. It doesn't compliment me. It doesn't take me to that next step in my life where I want to be, what I want out of life.
That's right. It's not feeding. It's not nurturing that third circle. It's diminishing it.
Yeah.
Because it takes two to help that relationship circle thrive and keep healthy and vital and juicy and strong. But if it's not, and if it's being neglected or being diminished, then it shrinks. And why would you want to, in a relationship with a circle that shrivels and shrunk?
Mm-hmm. I want to talk to you. I want to change the page a little bit again. And I want to talk to you a little bit about, not that this wasn't a little metaphysical, but I want to go even a little bit more into that.
Sure.
Sure. And I wanted to also mention you fill in for Shirley MacLaine's radio show at times.
Yes, at times. I haven't done it yet this year, but from time to time, if she's traveling or her CEO, Britt, is not available, they will ask me to host it. And from time to time, I also, I used to do it more often. We don't do it as much anymore. But the chat room, I host the chat room on the Shirley MacLaine website. And that's always fun.
Yeah, I bet.
That's always great. Yeah, Shirley read my first book and liked it. That's how we got into connection with each other.
Mention the name of your first book.
Return.
Yeah. Also a great book.
Yeah.
Where can viewers get your books?
On Amazon.com. Barnes & Noble should have it. If not, they'll order it for you if you prefer to go to Barnes & Noble.